Hey. Happy Tuesday. It's Tuesday, but it's the first live stream of the week, which means it's time to gift 5 memberships. I do it at the beginning of every week so I can try to even come close to the generosity of this community. So hold on, here they come. 5 gifted memberships to 5 lucky individuals. YouTube chooses who they go to. I'd like to also thank other people for having just become members today. Welcome or welcome back. Yes, and thank you, Lady Jennifer Snow. Always very generous. This is not the first time Jennifer has gifted some memberships. So 10 people let into the party already. 80s Model, thank you so much. You guys are great. Really, I'm always blown away by the generosity of this community, and so I want to make sure that I'm a part of that. So that's why at the beginning of every stream, of every week, I give away 5 memberships myself. Also, though, if you can't be a member, don't worry about it. I'm just so glad that you can join in anyway, and you can be a part of this discussion in any way that you can, whether it's live, and I know a lot of people enjoy these after the fact, which means a lot to me as well. Also, it's very slow. It continues to be extremely slow. The writer's strike has not really made things get back on track as many of us had hoped. There's a little movement, but it's been very slow. And the actor's strike, we'd hoped would end by the end of the month, but I was talking to somebody I know in the industry today. Oh, thank you, Sam. And Clayton, I'm glad you got a membership. And my friend in the industry said that they felt that the actor's strike was going to last a lot longer than expected, which is unfortunate. I hope that the actors know what they're doing. I certainly want to see them get what they deserve. And I don't think we're at the point just yet where we're like, come on, but I think we're getting there. I think I had hoped that the strike would be over. I don't even believe they're talking right now. I think SAG is going to start talking to the video game, Warner Brothers Games, and other video game companies instead, because SAG's like, might as well, we got nothing else to do. We had thought that, this was going to end at the end of October, but I think now that the actors' strike I think there's a very good chance it'll last to the end of the year. Or it'll go far enough or close enough to the holidays that it won't, everybody, it won't matter, because no one can work really. Hollywood pretty much shuts down right around Thanksgiving to Christmas, because everybody's just the holidays traveling. They focus on awards time, the awards films, and then that's right. Also, we're in the lull. Oh, Mark, thank you for gifting a membership. We're in the lull. We knew there was going to be a dry spell because no new content was being made, and here we are. This is it, and it's brutal. It's really, really brutal. There are very few movies coming out over the next few weeks. And very few shows. It's a tough spot. I'm going to review The Gilded Age, which I loved. I love The Gilded Age so much. Season 2 is even better, but I'm going to review it. Why not? There's nothing going on. And then also, I think I'm going to try and watch the Spider-Man cutscenes, even though they're freaking 4 hours long, and see if they're not. There's no early release, so I can't get my hands on that early. But I'm going to try and watch it over the weekend and maybe review it at the beginning of next week. All right, so we have 3 stories to discuss today. Just to remind you how this works, please keep your comments and super chats to whatever we're discussing at hand. And if you ask me something before I get to the point of the story where I ask for your feedback, I may not get to what you're saying. Is it fixed now? Is the stream still glitching? Because from what I'm looking, it shows me what's live, and it seems fine on my end. So I don't know what's going on with you guys. You can try refreshing the window if you want before we get started. Do you want to try refreshing it? So, because there's nothing I can do about it. Let me just tell you. There's absolutely nothing that I can do. Okay. All right. It's good now? All right. It's good. All right. So, and then, of course, at the end of the stream, as always, you can ask me whatever you would like for the final 10 minutes. And then I'll do some shout outs as usual. And there will be 3 streams this week. We'll always do I always work to do the 3 streams unless something personal comes up. And so we're going to have the three streams. Probably tomorrow and Thursday. I don't know if I'm going to have a stream on Friday. All right, let's see. Let's see what's going on. I hope people are watching. No one's watching Loki. What a disaster. I'm scared to see what the numbers look like when it finally hits Nielsen. I'm shocked at what happened to Loki because I think it's such a good show. But nobody seems to care. All right. Here we go. Oh, and that's right, Danny. If you could like the stream and subscribe, I would not only appreciate it, but it would improve your chances of getting a gifted membership because YouTube prioritizes. Thank you for gifting a membership, Tom. You could have gotten that membership. You could have gotten the membership that Tom just gifted. Who got it? Nishan got it. Whoever interacts with the channel the most is more likely to get it. Alexander, I can't do anything about the glitching, so I'm sorry that's happening for you. There's just nothing that can be done. All right. I mean, there's nothing. I just told you there's nothing I can do about it. All right, here we go. Story number 1. Boop. Oh, thanks, Zay, for gifting a membership. Okay. Oh, wow, Toe. Always nice to see you're angry or happy. Your mischievous Toe is how I would describe it. Always nice to see your mischievous Toe, and that's very nice of you to gift those memberships. All right, so first story of the day. As I said, boop, boopity boop, boop. Now, it's interesting to me. I find this fascinating because Jordan Peele used to say that if he was going to do a franchise, he would like to do Gargoyles. And who did it go to? Another horror persona, and that's James Wan. James Wan is going to he's going to produce a Gargoyles live action show for Disney Plus. So I think it's interesting that, people thought like horror. I think fantasy would go better with Gargoyles, quite frankly. Who here's watched Gargoyles? Let me do a poll. I love Gargoyles. I've seen every single episode. It ran from 1994 to 1997. Let's see here. Did you watch Gargoyles? And then we'll do, yes, when it aired. And then you go, yes, when it aired. And on Disney Plus. Because it's there. And then you say, yes, recently on Disney Plus. Oh, thanks, Lone Wolf Media. And then, no, I've not watched it. Never. Okay. So those are your choices if you've watched the show. Boy, crazy sunlight today. I apologize about that. By the way, you don't have to be a member to vote in a poll. Only members can discuss in the chat, but anybody can vote in a poll. So anybody who's joining in today can do that. All right, so anyway, James Wan, who also, by the way, is doing Mortal Kombat. He produces the Mortal Kombat, the first movie, and we haven't seen the second one just yet. First one turned out okay. I thought it had some cool moments, that's for sure. The opening and then the reptile fight was like pretty awesome. Kano versus Reptile, that was phenomenal. And then otherwise, it wasn't as good as we had hoped. But they got a second one. Thank you again, Lone Wolf Media. They got a second Mortal Kombat movie, which hopefully will be even better. And so, so I guess what I would say is that I'm impressed with James Wan's ability to expand into IP, and he's getting some really good IP. But the first Mortal Kombat movie doesn't make me feel like he's a slam dunk to adapt IP. I'm not like, oh, James Wan's going to do it. It'll be great. I'm not at all worried about it. I'm kind of worried about it. I'm less worried about if someone else was doing it, but I'm still a little nervous. And so who is James Wan hired to do this? Mr. Gary Doberman, who you can see standing next to him there. Gary Doberman wrote a number of the Annabelle movies. He wrote the first Nun film, and he also worked on the two It movies, It and It Chapter 2. And he directed Annabelle Comes Home, which wasn't bad, but it kind of makes me worried that's what his Gargoyles is going to be like at that level. Oh, sorry, I didn't silence my phone. Apologies. All right, so anyway, I do wonder if this is a Disney Plus show. It's not a movie, it's a series, AI. I'm glad you stuck around. I don't know if your joining was a joke, because I remember you joined the day that we were discussing artificial intelligence. But I'm glad you stuck around. I think that's fun. All right, so anyway, it's going to be a series on Disney Plus, and I just have a serious concern about the level of VFX for a Disney Plus show. Is it going to be like, remember that Beauty and the Beast show with Linda Hamilton, like from the 90s or whatever? It seemed like it was from the 90s, and it was just some dude walking around in cat makeup. That's kind of what I worry about this show is going to be like. Like, a lot of the times, the Gargoyles, hold on, I got gargoyle pictures for you. There they are. Their wings are up very high. But a lot of times, their wings cross over in front of their chests like a cape. And I worry that that's what they're going to do. That they're going to have them walking around in gargoyle makeup with like the plastic rubber wings over his capes and then walk around and be like, what's going on, everybody? And we're going to be like, what? With today's although what they can do with VFX today is incredible. Like they're having an upcoming Pokemon show for Netflix, and the visual effects I've heard on that are incredible. And lots of other cool things. So, maybe it could work for a Disney Plus show, but I'm very nervous. The other question is this for kids or adults, right? Like, a lot of the people I think who would be interested in Gargoyles are now adults who watched the first one, who watched the show when it aired from 1994 to 1997, who were like, yeah, can I get an adult version of Gargoyles? Especially if James Wan's producing it, are they going to go and be like scary and mess people up? And you're like, I don't know. I worry that if it's on Disney Plus, that it's going to be like Percy Jackson. And I'm like, nobody wants that. Nobody wants, that kind of a thing. And also, by the way, Elisa Maza, the human detective, I remember having a big impact with her flirtation and relationship with Goliath, voiced by Keith David. I was always like, oh, this is a crazy romance. Will they or won't they? I think, as a child, it was my first will they or won't they, romantic situation. And so is Disney Plus going to do that? The show doesn't work if they don't have this very strong flirtation. I still remember to this day when they kissed on the show, and you were like, it's happening. And I was a child. And I was like, oh, this is great. And by the way, Elisa Maza is voiced by Sally Richardson Whitfield, who I've talked about recently because I think it's so cool that many years later, she directs and produces a lot of HBO shows. She directed and produced Winning Time and then also The Gilded Age. So that's really cool. So people remember this. So I'm just a little bit concerned about how this is going to turn out on Disney Plus. I just get really, really nervous about it. So let me introduce you to I can't believe it was only 3 seasons because they had so much story. I'm shocked at how much story they crammed into 3 seasons. And I'm like, can they do as good a job? Like there's these characters as well. Some of you may or may not know them. That's Xanatos in the middle and his assistant Owen. No spoilers. And then that's Fox, a member of the Pack, which were in the first season, the villains taking on the Gargoyles. But she and Xanatos got married and they had that kid. It's a very adult storyline. I'm surprised that it was so popular with kids. Right? And then it got really crazy later on. They went to Avalon, like King Arthur times. And I remember they were at Avalon and they actually met King Arthur and they were going to castles. I think they also went to the future in a couple of episodes. They met their daughter in the future. It's really crazy. It's a great show, but it's back in the day when shows for kids could be more adult. I don't know if they would do that today. That makes me a little bit nervous, but it was a phenomenal show. Some of you remember even more about it than I do. I guess, am I going to rewatch 3 seasons of Gargoyles? I might, if this show is coming along. The casting is key on this stuff, though, particularly Elisa Maza, Goliath, and Xanatos. Those, the main villain, and Fox, too. That's right, Mark knows all about Owen and doesn't want to give it away. But yeah, it's a great show. That's right, Greg Weisman. Well, I have to say, Big D, Greg Weisman recently released a new Gargoyles comic, which continued the stories. And I bought that comic. And then I stopped buying it because it was awful. They had 3 seasons. Demona, that's right. Demona actually, I didn't put her in here. Demona is Goliath's ex-girlfriend. And she's like his Jada Pinkett Smith. That's right. They need a really good Demona. that's, I don't know how they're going to do them walking around on their legs. I mean, it seems ridiculous to me. I just don't know how they can do that. So I don't know if anybody here has bought the comic, but the new comic is just awful. And so I'd be nervous about having Greg Weisman be involved in this at all, quite frankly. So I don't know. I guess Gary Doberman, maybe Gary Doberman is a fan. It would be great if James Wan and Gary Doberman were fans, clearly Jordan Peele was at some point. Maybe they could get Jordan Peele to be involved. I'd be like, hey, Jordan Peele, don't you love Gargoyles? Would you like to maybe be a part of it? See, Matt agrees. The comic is not good. So let me close the poll. It's looking pretty good for this show because 48% of you have never seen it. That's pretty good. 39% of you watched it way back when it aired in the 1990s, so that's excellent. And then a very small percentage of you have watched it on Disney Plus, which is interesting. That's a very small percentage that watched it on Disney Plus. That's 11%. Oh, that's excellent. That means that you have a pretty even split between people who saw it when it originally aired and people who've never seen it. And that's interesting to me because we're about to talk about Avatar, which is basically the same thing. A very popular animated series that is going to have to not only be a nostalgia play for a significant fandom, but also for a significant number of people is going to be totally new. So how do you bridge that divide? Much more so than the Disney the Disney live action movies. Will says, how's 50% never seeing it a good sign? But that's because it's new to those people, Will. Those people can discover the story for the first time. That was an option, smart girl, about rewatched it. You could say you rewatched it. That was one of the votes when it aired and on Disney Plus. Danielle says, I watched it on Disney Channel reruns. That is old school, Danielle. I'm impressed. I love it. All right. So, yeah, the sun is crazy today. It's like yellow. Usually I don't have this much color. All right. Well, so does anyone have any questions about this before we talk about Avatar? Another animated series, which is about to go to live action. Any questions or comments? There don't seem to be. Little brother Gabriel saw it on Toon Disney. Jeremiah says, should they just do an animated sequel show? Yeah, part of me feels like, I don't know. I feel like on both these things, on Avatar and Gargoyles, they should do sequels and continue the story. But I guess people, especially since so many people haven't seen Gargoyles, 48%, you can't really start later on. You got to start, at the beginning for those people. And maybe it could be a generational thing, like when people watch Star Wars with their kids and they're like, oh, when I was growing up, this was my favorite show. And the kid either goes, oh, I love it too. Or what were you thinking? This is awful. Hey, Gareth, always good to see you with your Golden Girls Avatar. So we'll see. All right, let's move on to the next story of the day. Hold on. Story number 2. Here we go. Boop. Oh, I didn't cover Zuko's face. But don't worry, I have bigger pictures for us to look at, so it's going to be great. All right, so Avatar live action coming out in 2024, next year. Now, this has been in the news because the creators of Avatar got really upset, and they quit this show. They said, Netflix doesn't know what it's doing. We're appalled at the way they're adapting Avatar, and they left the show, but they can't stop Netflix from making Avatar. So they decided to go back to Paramount and start Avatar Studios, where the original creators of the show will be making new series and theatrical released movies from Paramount Nickelodeon. But this Avatar live action show is still moving ahead. And based on what the creators of the show said, I think we all felt it would be awful. But I gotta say, I think these pictures that came out today are very impressive. And I'll do a poll. Again, anyone can vote in the poll. And you can wait to vote till you see the pictures, but I'll just keep it in here in case I start it now in case you've already seen it. What do you think of live action Fire Nation. There are four groups in Avatar, okay? There's, earth, wind, fire, and water. Basically earth, wind, fire, and water. And so I think they're clearly divulging or previewing, thank you, Optimus Prime, one group at a time. They started with Fire Nation today. So amazing, like some, others not. And then hate it. All right, there you go. I think it looks great, quite frankly. I'll just tell you that right now. But, everybody's trying to do what Disney did with their live action movies. Okay? Everybody's like, oh, that worked out really well for Disney doing, live action adaptations of their animated features. So now that's starting to happen in multiple places. Not only like Avatar and Gargoyles, which we were just discussing, but How to Train Your Dragon. Universal is doing a live action version of that, which was cast right before the actors' strike started. So this is a wave that's sweeping now all of Hollywood. One Piece, I guess One Piece, yeah, but I think One Piece is a little bit different because that was really never a big hit in North America in the mainstream. I mean, I think that show certainly brought it over. All right, you want to see the pictures, Jose? Okay, hold on. All right, so Avatar started, so here's the blurb of who's playing who. Avatar aired from 2005 to 2008 on Nickelodeon. And then in 2010, they did a movie with M. Night Shyamalan directing, and it really kind of killed Dev Patel's career. He played Zuko. And M. Night Shyamalan decided to change the Fire Nation from Asian to Indian to match his own heritage, and he had Dev Patel play Zuko. And everybody was very excited because Dev Patel was like really big at that time, coming off of Slumdog Millionaire, and then M. Night really torpedoed both of their careers. And it was, in fact, one of the very first junkets that I ever did. And I remember interviewing M. Night Shyamalan and being shocked that he had no idea how bad his movie was. It was really interesting to talk to him because he just had no idea. He really felt that he nailed it. And so that was interesting. And then Korra resumed the series from 2012 to 2014. It became quite popular, but because they decided to make the main character, Korra, LGBT, it ended up Paramount at that time, about 10 years ago, Paramount kind of freaked out and stuck the show on online only. It was one of the first shows that you could only watch online. And it was a real shame because it was a tremendous show. But Korra ended up being something you had to watch on a website, because there were no streaming services back then. It was crazy how that happened. But it was an incredible show. And I think, if you've never seen Avatar: The Last Airbender, I highly recommend it. It's just an amazing, amazing, amazing show. Both the original and then the Korra follow-up. Now, so let's go. So we have the thing here about Fire Nation and some of the actors. So let's take a look at these pictures. All right. So hold on. Here we go. All right. Wait a second. Let me move it above there. All right. So here's our first picture. This is Dallas Liu as Prince Zuko, and I think that Netflix has worked very hard to cast the correct ethnicity for these characters, which I think is great. And I have to say, I think this is pretty on point. I'm very impressed. I can't quite tell what this actor's charisma is. I don't know what he's like, his personality, but just looks-wise, then that's fantastic. And I'm also really impressed with the effort that they made with the set. The production values. I feel like, this could be really cool. It feels very much like the Fire Nation if you've ever watched Avatar: The Last Airbender. This is very much like what their kingdom does look like and what their architecture and their interior design looks like. It looks very much like the animated series. I'm impressed. Alexander says his scar needs to be bigger. Yeah, it's a little small. It looks more almost like a black eye. If you're wondering what happened to him, he was injured. I won't tell you too much, but he's been burned. That's a burn because Fire Nation. So he's marked, and he starts out as the antagonist, but he actually became like a Loki Bucky anti-hero kind of character. He's just fantastic. Great character. I loved Zuko. I love all these characters. All right, so that's the first one. I think he looks great. Next up, now this was the one that had a lot of controversy. I think she looks great. I think people were very mean to her. This is Azula, okay? Zuko's sister, played by Elizabeth Yu. And Azula is like demented. She's like nuts, okay? She's very interesting. I mean, her character becomes more nuanced as time goes on. But she started out just being like she was crazy. I think that this is I feel like some people, I'm not quite sure, Marty, I think some people felt that she didn't look tough enough. Also, I think that the original Azula, and I'd be curious to see what you guys think, I think the original Azula has a very Western look in terms of, attractiveness. But if you go over to Asia, particularly in China, a rounder face is considered more appealing, I believe. From what I remember, when I was learning about, how they decided to animate Mulan and stuff like that. So a rounder face is something that would appeal more to Asia, to Asian audiences. So I think she looks really great. I think she looks very pretty. Some people feel maybe like she doesn't have enough of expression, but to me, she looks very cold. I think it's like a psychopath would be. A psychopath actually has a lack of emotion, quite frankly. And so, I mean, like the Azula in the cartoon was quite cartoonish. She was nuts. She was really like a crazy person. So, I mean, I have to see the performance. I think she looks great. I think she looks very cool. I think the costume looks more like a real costume than like the MCU characters, quite frankly. CT says a heart-shaped face is preferred in Asia. That's great. That's a great point. I agree. So I think she looks really wonderful. I think the hair is perfect. And I think she looks gorgeous. I think for any culture, in my opinion, I think she looks pretty for any culture. And I feel bad that this consistently happens with female characters. I don't want another Kelly Marie Tran situation and stuff like that. I get really nervous about it. I'm like, we haven't even seen a trailer. But I think she looks really great. So I was sad to see that was the out of the gate overall reaction. Then next, this is incredible. This is General Iroh, Paul Sun-hyung. I mean, that's just perfect. I mean, that's nuts. He just like walked off the animated series. That's how much I like it. So I'm very, very impressed with this. So he is literally the uncle of Zuko, and he is kind of like, he's someone who really helps Zuko on his journey, and he's a wonderful character. He's very much like the fabulous uncle that really is the father figure that Zuko needs. So yeah, I agree. He looks the best. Well, does he look the best? Because hold on. So I mean, but you couldn't look better than this. This is incredible. Next up, this is fantastic. This is fantastic. This is Daniel Day Kim from Lost. He is Fire Lord Ozai. I think he looks cooler than the animated version of the character. I mean, he just looks incredible. This is probably the coolest role that Daniel Day Kim has ever gotten. So I'm very happy for Daniel Day Kim. He is the leader of the Fire Nation, and he's a bad dude, my pleasure. Hey, Ahmad. So I just think he looks great. To me, this one looks better. And also the fire behind him looks so good. You're like, oh my gosh, it looks so much like out of the animated series, but better and more intense and with more detail. And that's what you want look how the poll changed to amazing as people saw this. He is a snack, Kareem. They're going with the hotties. So I just, literally in this case, Fire Nation's full of a lot of hotties. But yeah, I just think that he looks phenomenal. I just can't believe how good that looks, quite frankly. All right, and then, that's funny, Zay. And then here we have one more. This is interesting. This is Ken Leung. It's a little hard to tell. He's from Lost as well. Ken Leung, he's playing, as you can see, Commander Zhao, who's actually a great character who's like a really big villain in the series. So this is Commander Zhao. He has quite the character arc, so it's a really juicy role for Ken Leung. And Ken Leung, if you look at Ken Leung's career, he was in X-Men The Last Stand as the porcupine guy. He was in Lost, where he had an okay role. He's been on Industry on Max. But, he's really struggled to have good roles. And so I'm thrilled that this show is providing really wonderful opportunities for Asian actors. So I'm very happy about that. And I think that that's something to really be lauded. But the costume looks phenomenal. He looks amazing. Was he from Rush Hour? I forgot. Donnie Yen would be great on this show. I don't know if they can afford Donnie Yen, though, quite frankly. I think he's wonderfully cast. I think the costumes look great. I think the wigs look great. The most important thing is how does the VFX look and the fighting? That is going to be the most important. How do the fight sequences look? Are they good enough? Are they extended enough? Do they have the air bending, the water bending, the fire bending, and the earth bending? Let's do one more poll. Who's your favorite group? I'll tell you mine in a second. I'm very strongly earth bending, particularly metal bending for Toph. Amazing, 46%, 39% like some, and then only 13% hate it. That's very encouraging. And here's the thing. The guys who created Avatar who left this project, it still doesn't hurt them because they can always say, hey, it turned out better than I thought it would. And then also, since they're continuing the story, I think it helps them. At the very least, it'll help them to get people more interested in the movies and the television shows that they're going to make. All right, so let's do a poll for who's your favorite group. Yeah, Toph, Earthbending and Toph are my favorite characters and my favorite thing for sure. Okay. Water bending, fire bending, and the Avatar can do all four. That's what makes the Avatar special. Air bending and earth bending. Oh, it's an incredible show. That's right. Water benders can bend blood. That's very true. There are very strong incentives for all the groups, but I just really like earthbending. As soon as I saw Toph on the show, I was like, that's for me. I thought what Toph could do was incredible with earth, and then when she learned to metal bend, I was blown away. And then later, on The Legend of Korra, we met her daughter, and that was just incredible what they were able to do with that character, who took it even further. By the way, one of the major directors on the Avatar shows went on to do the Spider-Verse sequel. Poke, you don't like any of them? Oh my gosh, that's not even a choice because you gotta like one because they're just so cool. You can't not like one of them. They're great. Waterbending is winning. What? It's cool. They can do water and ice and blood bending. I would agree with that. That's certainly true. Oh, she has 2 daughters? I forgot all this. I forgot everything in Invincible. I forgot everything in Avatar. It took way too long. I gotta rewatch all this stuff. Chandler likes metal bending so much that he was very generous. All right, does anybody have any questions or comments about this before we move to the third story? Care Bear, I'm not sure how Appa's gonna look, but based on these images, I think pretty darn good. I forgot about the other Beifong. I'm sorry. Zay says, loved water because of the healing aspects of the bending. Also how the bending could be used from plants and sweat and stuff. Oh, that's cool. Yeah, that's cool. Jake Van Norden says, if we haven't seen the original shows, could we jump right in with this one? You certainly could, because this is going to be a new show starting from the very beginning. Writer boy, airbending is like telekinesis, but I'm sorry. Earthbending is just like the way Toph did it, to me, nothing can come close. Steven says, loved Katara and Toph's rivalry when she first joined. Yeah, that was great. Katara, they're all great characters. Elliot, I'm glad you like the emojis. Nicholas says you can fly and suffocate enemies with air. I don't think any of these are bad powers. I think they're all cool powers. Like fire bending can be lightning, as Juan Carlos just said. I remember that. That was really cool to be able to have lightning bolts. I'm like, that's incredible. But I still prefer earthbending. You have to pick one. And I picked earthbending. Sorry. I mean, you got to pick one. David Linares says, don't deny yourself the magic that is the original. Mika says, what if this is another Jupiter's Legacy? Yeah, you never know. I got to see what the acting is like. I got to see, you got to see how the story works. People might not be into it again, I mean, we just don't know. It's tough. Mark Chapman says, I'm still bitter after Netflix messed up Death Note. I mean, let's see. I mean, will it become apparent to us why those guys quit? Or was their quitting a wake-up call to this show and maybe they fixed it all? All right, let's see how the poll went. Earthbending is so low. Oh my God, I'm so sad. Hold on. You guys are crazy. All right, so waterbending won easily at 45%. That's craziness. Airbending at 20%, earthbending at 17%, and firebending at 16%. Oh my goodness, but not a lot of votes because I think a lot of you haven't seen the show. Oh yeah, how many people have seen Avatar? Let's do that. Have you seen any Avatar? Zay says, any tea on when this will be released? I haven't heard anything about that, but it's 2024. It looks pretty close to being ready, I think. But although the VFX could take a while, so let's see. But they wouldn't be releasing peeks like this, sneak peeks, if they weren't somewhat close. Yes, all of it. And then some don't remember. And then none of it. There we go. Let's see how many of you have seen Avatar: The Last Airbender. Buck's Basement said they heard February for this show. That'd be cool. I wish it would come out in January when there's nothing out. Also, are they going to do it in 2 parts? This wouldn't be a weekly release. I don't know how I feel about that. Wade says not only has he never watched it, but he's never going to watch it. What, Wade? Lisa says, are they filming now? I'm not sure. Let's see. Let me look back at my press release. Hold on. Wait a minute. It doesn't say. They have an Asian showrunner, Albert Kim. That's very promising. Albert Kim's like probably to the creators. He's the original. By the way, the creators of the original show aren't Asian for the most part, which I always thought was interesting. Let's see if this guy can be the new One Piece showrunner, who really knocked that one out of the park. So I'm excited. I'm excited for this. This looks way better than I ever imagined it would, to be honest with you. Like, I'm really surprised at how good it looks. Justin Michael says, which form of bending will be tough to do in CGI? Oh, I don't know. Maybe air, because how do you make that become something you can see, right? Because it's wind. But I'm pretty excited about it. All right, let's see what the poll is, and then we'll go on to the third story of the day. Hold on. Yes, all of it. 61%. 20% have seen none of it, but then 18% saw some of it. So that's pretty good. That means a lot of people have watched Avatar. Very popular show when it was on. I don't know if it's still popular or how it would translate. And I think people will be more interested in what the original creators are doing. Like they're going to do a movie about like the adult versions of the characters. And I think a lot of people will be excited about that because it'll be like very much a sequel. And everybody felt bad that Korra skipped over those characters. And they had a tease where they were like, oh, look, this is what they looked like when they grew up. And everybody was like, why isn't that the show? And it wasn't. All right, let's go on to the third story of the day. All right. Third story of the day. Here we go. Boom, baby. All right, this is a short story. Kingsman 3. Matthew Vaughn was at New York Comic Con over the weekend, and he was chatty. He not only threw Fox under the bus with Halle Berry, talking about how, I'm surprised about that Halle Berry story. So apparently the Fox executives wrote a script where Halle Berry got to put some water in Africa to help children, and they said this is to make her sign on because she doesn't want to do the movie. And then you're like, and then they cut it, and so apparently Matthew Vaughn was disgusted. So first off, you're like, why can't you show a storm in Africa for like 2 seconds and make it rain? Like, why can't that be in the movie? I thought that was weird. Like, why can't you have that in the movie? I thought it was bizarre they wouldn't put it in there. Then I thought, Ricardo, I think Halle Berry doesn't want to fight with Fox, to be honest with you. I don't think she'll ever comment on it. And here's the other thing. Why didn't Halle Berry get script approval or final cut approval if it was that important to her? And I can understand being shocked that they would cut it, maybe. But I feel like that's certainly a learning thing for everybody. Like, if you're a big enough star, you should, certainly the level Halle Berry was at that point, she should have said, I don't think you can force them to include the scene, but you can put a really big financial penalty in there where they're like, it'll cost us like $5 million to cut this scene. Let's just put it in there, quite frankly. I did, quite frankly, again, even I caught it that time. Rodrigo says she won't comment until after Secret Wars. That's right. Halle Berry's coming back. She's getting paid. She's getting big payday. She's going to be back in the mix. She's going to be in Deadpool 3. She's going to be in Secret Wars. I think, Matthew Vaughn's not part of the party, so he's going around throwing a lot of mud. He hardly works for the studios anymore. And I got to tell you, I would have advised Matthew Vaughn from sharing this story. If I were his publicist or manager, I'd be like, don't tell that story, Matthew Vaughn. That makes you look bad. Poke, there isn't a Fox anymore, but those executives are still around. I mean, Kevin Feige was a part of the team. He wasn't in charge, but Kevin Feige didn't be like, no, we can't do that to Halle Berry, right? Gail Ann Hurd produced those, right? I mean, she's still very much alive and doing stuff. So I just think it's weird, And then you're right, Kay Walton, Matthew Vaughn's like, I wouldn't be a part of that movie. But then he came back and did X-Men First Class. So the whole thing's ridiculous, in my opinion. All right. He also talked about Argyle, which of course is a movie that's coming out in early next year with a weird haircut on Henry Cavill. And then also, just like Colin Firth in the two Kingsman movies, he has an unusual action hero in Sam Rockwell there. Matthew Vaughn also teased a Kick-Ass reboot, which is basically going to be a commentary, like a really vulgar commentary on superhero movies today. I don't think he's going to do The Authority, Mika. I told you. Okay, just on that, there was a rumor that Matthew Vaughn was going to direct The Authority for James Gunn. I told you that The Authority was a misdirect, that James Gunn was never going to do anything with that property, and he just didn't want people to know he was going to do his version of like the Justice Society or the Justice League, which you're seeing start to come into play already with the casting that was done on Superman Legacy. And remember, I told you that they said they were going to bring The Authority into Superman Legacy and then they get their own movie. But that was, again, a very clever misdirect to keep that from leaking. Now, what I heard, and that other scoopers have reported, the way I got it was very loose, but then another scooper reported it, and I was like, oh yeah, I heard that too. So anyway, and I was never able to confirm it. But I heard that Matthew Vaughn was a potential Bond director. Now, of course, there's been some rumors now and chatter that Nolan might get it, but I heard that Matthew Vaughn was like considering getting ready to like move to the location to film. Like, that's how close Matthew Vaughn was to this deal. Now, I'm not saying that it couldn't have fallen through if they worked out something with Christopher Nolan, but that's what I heard Matthew Vaughn was closing in on. So anyway, we'll see about this Kick-Ass reboot. I don't know. I think Mark Miller is going to have a hard time coming back after Jupiter's Legacy. I think that really hurt him. And I loved Jupiter's Legacy, but nobody else did. And I don't know. I think he's going to have, and also I think it's been frustrating that Mark Miller basically just writes movie pitches and TV pitches at this point. And I think that the comics that he's putting out are not great. The Aaron Taylor Johnson rumors, I believe, are true. And I was talking to a friend of mine, and I was like, he's a ridiculous choice, right? And my friend was like, no, he's super hot, Grace, you're wrong. And I was like, I don't see it. But my friend has, I think, pretty good taste in terms of like what the general public will like. And her giving Aaron Taylor Johnson her blessing made me feel better about him. I was like, maybe he would work out. But Aaron Taylor Johnson, directed by either Matthew Vaughn, although here's what gets weird, right? So this was why I wanted to focus largely on Kingsman 3. Because Kingsman 3, I don't understand how this could work. It's supposed to be he says it's going to start filming next year. So how could Aaron Taylor Johnson is not confirmed, Fritz. Aaron Taylor Johnson is not confirmed for Bond under any circumstances. But I think he's really in contention. I also think it should be Henry Cavill, Mr. Magic. I think 1,000% James Bond should be Henry Cavill. But anyway, maybe Matthew Vaughn didn't get Bond, because how is he considering moving forward with Kingsman 3? He said it's going to start filming next year. That doesn't make any sense to me that he would move on to that. Also, what about Taron Egerton? Some people have felt that he could be James Bond, right? And then also, Taron Egerton, we're all hoping maybe could be the MCU Wolverine, potentially, even though he would be very much a junior Hugh Jackman version of the character. But, if it ain't broke, don't fix it, I guess. And I think if you watched Blackbird on Apple TV, you would see that Taron Egerton is phenomenal. He's such a talented actor. But yeah, I think we'll see what they decide to do. I'm nervous about a Kingsman 3 because I thought Kingsman 2 was weak. And I thought the Kingsman, which was an origin story for the Kingsman movies, I liked it, but it didn't do well. And so I'm surprised that anybody would throw money at Kingsman 3. I'd be like, I don't think it's going to work. Maybe Henry Cavill will be in Kingsman 3, right? That would work. By the way, Pedro Pascal, early days, that was one of his first big breakout things when he was in Kingsman 2. And he was excellent. He was very good at the lasso. Those sequences were incredible. So yeah, Mika, I don't think they're going to make a Statesman spin-off movie, but they could put the Statesman in a large role here. Halle Berry, by the way, speaking of Halle Berry, she was in the second film. Although they killed off Merlin, and I don't understand why anybody would want to watch a Kingsman movie without Merlin. I agree, Sidhu. Henry Cavill with Nolan directing for James Bond seems like an easy billion, but I guess not. Does anybody have any questions or comments about this story before we go to the Q&A? But Henry Cavill could be quite good in a Kingsman movie. Danny says Robert Pattinson would have been a great Bond. I don't know about that. I think he's a good Batman. Maybe. Kareem, I did say that Henry Cavill was difficult on set, but I think he's enough of a good match with James Bond that you could just overlook it. Fritz says, I would love to see Dev Patel or Oscar Isaac if they wanted a more diverse Bond. I don't think they'll ever have a more diverse Bond, to be honest with you. I think your best bet is to diversify his supporting cast. And I've also said that they could make Felix, the CIA agent, have a bigger role and get some action sequences. I think that would substantially help the franchise. So let's see if they do that. But I would definitely utilize Felix more. Jeffrey Wright, of course, played the character in the Daniel Craig movies. But I think that, a younger, cooler Felix would help that franchise's appeal significantly while allowing it to still kind of remain what it was like originally. Steven says, I hope Halle Berry's brought back for Kingsman 3. Hated how John Wick hasn't brought her back. Yeah, that's very frustrating. Mission Impossible got called out for that, and they were good for a while, but then they kind of slipped back into that. Jeremy, The Man from U.N.C.L.E. was awful. I totally agree. But I think Henry Cavill has to be a little bit of a jerk, his character, and James Bond definitely has that quality. So that's why I think he'd be a good fit. Bizzle Fry said, should I watch Avatar or Gargoyles first? I guess Avatar, because Gargoyles hasn't even started casting yet. So it's going to be such a long time before Gargoyles airs, you're going to forget it. So you should wait till closer to the date. Sean says, I feel Nolan could help make Aaron Taylor Johnson a great 007. A potato could play James Bond if Christopher Nolan was directing, and everybody would go see it. I think that Oppenheimer has proved that Christopher Nolan is a huge star and a huge draw to the general public. My pleasure, Bizzle Fries. I like your name. That's right, I said a potato. A potato! Ricardo says, but Henry Cavill is so wooden. He is wooden, but you know, how much, I think James Bond has like no personal life. Oh, Henry Cavill can flirt. He was making quite the sexy eyes at Armie Hammer during The Man from U.N.C.L.E. I was like, is this their first date? What's happening? All right. I think you guys are pretty good on this story. Let's go to the Q&A section. You can ask me anything you'd like for 10 minutes. Hold on. It's 6:28. You can ask me anything you'd like until 6. We'll just do 6:40. Oh, David, you saw Poor Things? That's fantastic. I'm excited to see that. I agree, Mr. Magic. I think Henry Cavill can flirt with anyone because he was also very flirty, I thought, successfully on The Witcher. I could feel the connection between that couple. Rodney Dollar says, hey, Grace, I was hoping you could do a video on Once Upon a Studio and which cameo was your favorite. I don't think there's enough interest to do a whole standalone video on that, but I thought the stuff with Walt was really very moving. Thanks, Celine. That's very nice of you to say. Did you see that they teased Thor in the new teaser for the Marvels? No, I didn't. I didn't see that today. Boy, they're sure giving away a lot of that movie. Although I never heard anything about Thor in the film. Jules, any Last of Us tea? It's hard because the actors strike, there's very little tea right now because nothing's happening in town because they can't film or cast anything because of the actors strike. Ryan, I did watch No Hard Feelings. We did a BTT movie club for it. You could watch it with me if you were to join that level of membership. Sean Turner says, I think Michaela Cole would make a good Bond woman. I like her a lot. She's very cool. She has a great look. Although I still feel bad about what happened to Lashana Lynch in the last Bond movie. She didn't deserve that. She was incredible. Wandering Seth says, what did you think of I'm Just Pete? I thought SNL was great this weekend. I have to disagree. I thought I'm Just Pete. I'm glad it got so much attention, and they did do a very good job at the production value and mimicking that, but I thought it totally missed the point of the song and why it was so popular. Lone Wolf Media says, any alien tea? Have you also heard about the A24 Peacock Crystal Lake series? I haven't heard anything about either of those things, I'm afraid. Toe99 says, Grace, will you do a spoiler review on Insomniac Spider-Man 2? I hope you do. I love your video game breakdowns. I was sad you didn't review MK1. I'm sorry about that, but I just don't know enough about Mortal Kombat to really review that. I did tweet about how impressed I was with the few minutes that I did see of that movie. But I want to see Spider-Man. I'm going to try and review Spider-Man 2, especially because it's so slow right now. I do have time to watch a 4-hour movie. By the way, I heard that video game companies don't like that the movie cutscenes go online. Somebody in the video game industry that I was talking to said that was very frustrating to the video game companies. And I'm surprised that they don't just release the movie themselves, like on iTunes, and charge like $20 if you don't want to play the game. That seems like a possible revenue stream. And also the people who are uploading the cutscenes are making so much money off of them. Like a 4-hour video that gets like over 1 million views, that's thousands of dollars. Like that's very, very lucrative. MM92 says, hey Grace, do you have any insider thoughts on who the new villain might be in Matt Reeves' Batman 2? I told you everybody heard it was gonna be Mr. Freeze. I saw a rumor the other day that it might be Hush, which I'm very upset about, and I hope it's not Hush. I don't like that character. I don't think that chapter ever worked for Batman. I don't like that comic. I hate the whole idea. I can understand that Matt Reeves is like, oh, so many of the Batman villains have already been so iconically portrayed. Let me go find ones that haven't been. And it's like, don't do that. People want to see who they want to see. That's right, Bear Gadar. The MK1 cutscenes were an animated movie. Like, it was a legit animated movie that was incredibly well directed and very cool animation and like a very in-depth story. It was like watching an animated movie. And it's crazy that they don't just release that themselves. Just Josh, I think the Penguin show, maybe the strike might have slowed them down. I'm really worried about the Penguin show. I don't know if it has enough like Easter eggs for people. Marjorie says, hey Grace, I'm bummed you didn't like House of Usher. I just finished it, and while episode 1 was a slog, I agree. The remaining episodes were amazing. Oh, that's cool. I saw episode 2. I didn't like episode 2, I'm afraid. And I was like, this show just isn't for me. But I'm glad that a number of people do seem to be enjoying it, and that, I guess, explains why it had good reviews. Danny, I don't know about Castlevania Nocturne. Kareem, I am enjoying Gen V. I'm going to watch the 2 screeners that I got yesterday tonight. Rampage says, hey Grace, me and my dad just finished The Offer at your recommendation. He asks me all the time what you recommend. Oh, that's so nice. I hope you enjoyed the show. It's such a great show. I'm really glad that you and your dad watched it. And I love that you watched it together. Junior6288 says, I just want more Catwoman in the new Batman. She's my favorite character. I liked what Zoe Kravitz ended up doing with the character, although she went on to have a very difficult time on social media. Let's see. I have not heard very much about. I think they're starting to write it just recently again because of the writer's strike. Official Liam says, Grace, did you hear about the positive test screenings for Snow White and the praise for Rachel Zegler in the role? I have not. I haven't heard anything about that. We'll see. Danny, I'll review Priscilla at some point. Toe99 says, Grace, do you think the Gen V being released alongside Loki every Thursday is hurting that show? I think that what hurts that show is that nobody knows that it's about the boys. And I think that I didn't do a very good job getting the word out. But maybe Loki and Gen V are cannibalizing each other. But that was Disney's choice to go up against Amazon Prime. So that it's interesting to show that, people really like the boys, and I can understand that, although Gen V's not doing great. But I think that there is some draw there with the Amazon Prime superhero shows like Invincible as well, because they're so adult and they don't pull their punches, literally. Roll the Bryce says, is Fantastic Four still set in the 60s and an origin story? It's not set in the 60s, Roll the Bryce, but they're from the 60s. And it is I think it's going to be like their origin and how they got into the current MCU. But they're going to be another group. Like Captain Marvel's from the 90s, Captain America was from the 40s, and the Fantastic Four are going to be from another universe, but where they were in the 60s. Oh, Sidhu didn't like House of Usher either, but Aubrey Smalls loved it. Stephen Turner says, I wish we got a Catwoman show instead of a Penguin one. I wish Catwoman was on the Penguin show. Why do they have to be on their own shows? This is ridiculous. I think they should have done the Arkham show, quite frankly. I don't know why they did a Penguin show. I thought that was stupid. Jacob, the Halloween watch-along. We're going to do a watch-along for BTT Movie Club the night before. And I haven't picked the movie yet. I'm going to put a poll up this week. Rafael Calvia says, if people won't watch Loki, can we call the end of superhero blockbusters? Enjoy Deadpool 3 as a glorious end and go back to the smaller budget movies with smaller actors and more aimed to comic fans? Well, no, because Hollywood you don't make $1 billion off of that type of movie. I think they might have to take a little bit of a break, but they're going to want to get back to that because it just makes so much money. Star Nzinga says Gen V needed to be a binge release, not enough happening to wait a week. That's interesting. And I agree, Rodrigo, that the trailers for Gen V seemed awful. I mean, everybody who likes Gen V is shocked that it's so good, myself included. Tiff says video game cutscenes should be streamlined with important gameplay for full context if the studios were to release it themselves. I don't know, Tiff. I've watched a couple of cutscenes movies like Injustice 2, and I didn't feel I needed to see any of the fighting. Because they would stop, the scene would come back and they'd be like, you won that fight. And I'd be like, okay. The Richard, you like the Frasier reboot? That's awesome. I like the first episode, but not the second. Riley Steele says, Grace, thoughts on Ana de Armas as Poison Ivy? I was one of the first people to suggest that. Although I think her career's not going very well. I'd be a little bit more nervous to cast her today. David Felton says, are there any movies you feel could still be a success at the box office this year? I don't know, David. I think it's looking really rough. I don't think there are any, to be honest with you. Let me look really quickly. I actually don't think that there are any big, which really sucks for me from a business perspective, but I don't think there are any big movies coming out for the rest of this year, which is awful for someone who, is in the business of covering hot movies. So let's see. November. Whew. Maybe Trolls band together. People sure like those Trolls. I'm even kind of excited to see it because there's so few movies out. I'm like, all right, I'll watch Trolls. I like NSYNC. I think Poor Things is too R-rated for most audiences. Nope, I don't think there are any big movies left for the rest of the year. Fritz From, I have not seen Loki episodes 5 and 6 yet. I've only seen 1 through 4 still. You're going to be shocked when you see episode 4. I actually gasped out loud watching that episode. John Ashford says, any word on who could be cast in the Thin Man reboot? I bet they want Margot Robbie and Ryan Gosling. And I think that would be a big mistake to put them in everything. It's bad enough they're already doing the Ocean's prequel together. Oh, Danny, I'm glad you enjoyed The Last Voyage of the Demeter. It was fun, right? I got annoyed. Some people are like, oh, you don't like Killers of the Flower Moon, but you like that movie? I didn't say it was genius, The Last Voyage of the Demeter. It had a good atmosphere to it, and if you want something for Halloween season that you haven't seen, I thought it was serviceable. Mark Chapman says, I'm worried Hollywood won't make content I love anymore. My favorite shows like Andor and The Creator did so poorly. I'd be concerned about that too, Mark. It's going bad for those things. I have some crazy tea on the on Andor season 2 that I don't know if I can ever share it. Let's see here. Toe says, Grace, I have to go. Oh, I've had fun with you too, Toe. Let's see here. Evan Henderson. I didn't say there wouldn't be any good movies. I said, I was asked if there would be any more successful movies, and I don't think that there will be. Brother Quantum says, anyway, Will Smith can look more like a chump. I don't think so. I think his career's over. I think it's shocking. I'll watch the Walt stuff made me cry about that Disney short, which is on Disney Plus right now if you haven't seen it. Okay, I'll ask you guys if there are any movies left. I can only pick 4. Do you think any of these movies will be a box office hit? That's not that you're going to like it. Okay, we'll do Disney's Wish, flopola. Hunger Games prequel, flopola. Wonka, and then Aquaman 2. Not Napoleon. I don't think so, Mike Media. I mean, I'm excited about Napoleon. I think it looks incredible. I got a little annoyed that some people, when I didn't like Oppenheimer and Killers of the Flower Moon, some people were like, I don't think you're going to like Napoleon either. And I was like, Napoleon looks great to me. Wonka, and then what was the last one? Oh, yeah, the Marvels. Oh, darn it. Oh, let's take out Wonka, I guess. No, I don't think Aquaman 2 is going to be a hit. We'll leave that out. I've only got 4 spaces. Oh, Boab, that's very generous of you to gift 10 memberships. Thank you. I think I missed. Midnight Eye says, do you think Scooby-Doo Apocalypse has a chance of being made into a series? It's the last American comic book I really loved. I don't know. I've never heard of it. Maybe someday someone will remember it, but I don't know. Riley says, any word on Dune, the Sisterhood HBO series? They last it was in the trades. They had to totally rework it. What's the Andor tea? I heard that they were going to bring in a writer from a major franchise, but decided at the last minute not to do it. It was Tony Gilroy's decision. So let's see how it turns out. Boab, I'm sorry you were having a rough day, but I'm glad we cheered you up. Shamar, I don't think The Color Purple will be huge. I don't think it'll necessarily be a flop, but I don't think it'll be huge. Ulysses, I don't have any Planet of the Apes news. I wish I did. Sean says, I'm only seeing Napoleon for Vanessa Kirby. Not Joaquin. He looks great in that movie, in my opinion. Riley Steele says, Grace, who would you cast as Mystique? The Iranian actress from the Extraction movies. Oh, bye, AI. Have fun with your Huskies. And then Aiden says, are you at all excited for next year's animated Transformers movie? I'm interested to see if they do well. Also, the animated Lord of the Rings movie. I'm curious to see if those things do well with the general public. All right, let me end the poll. All right, let's see here. 45% think the Hunger Games will be a hit. And then 23% think the Marvels will be a hit. Well, let's see. I mean, both those movies are going to be powered significantly by women. Disney's Wish at 16% and Wonka at 14%. Some of you have, but a lot of you didn't even bother to vote because you're like, well, I have no idea. Like Henry. Not sure of any of those movies. Oh, I'm over my time. Okay, let me do shout outs and then I got to go. Ahmed says, Grace, do you think Captain America 4 will be affected by the Israeli-Palestinian conflict because they have Sabra in the film, who is an Israeli operative? I think it's hard to tell. I do think that Gal Gadot's background ended up being a difficult, at the very least, a difficult situation for Wonder Woman. I certainly think that, I like the broad appeal. I like the international feel. And I'm not sure, Ahmed. I think we'll have to wait and see. I don't feel comfortable talking about, we're having a movie conversation, and so it's uncomfortable to talk about something that is affecting people in a very real way, which is so much more serious than anything in Hollywood. I don't want any innocent people to die. I feel very strongly about that. All right. Tiff says, sitting outside with my cat in Colorado. Oh, Ahmed, you don't have to apologize. You had every right to ask that question. Steve Quintanilla says, hi, Grace, LA, finishing my walk with my doggy. Love your lives. Thank you. Yeah, the lives keep us going because there's just so little to cover. MM92 is eating chocolate ice cream. That sounds delicious. Thanks, Orlando. I appreciate that. Danny says, feeling down, need big Grace energy in Chicago. Danny, cheer up. Don't worry. The holidays are coming. That's always fun. Danny says, a lot of love from Guatemala on his day off. And then Alexander Padilla says, watching as always, Grace, from San Bernardino, California, eating quesadillas. I love quesadillas. A good shrimp quesadilla, that's my favorite. Riley still says, finishing up dinner and about to go to a concert. Have fun. Hi, Dr. Long Monkey. Timothy Austin is working late in Georgetown, Guyana. I hope I pronounced that correctly. I love talking to you guys all over the globe. Kareem says, I'm looking at my dog, Eero, stare at me as I chop up onions and sausage for my pasta. Oh, that sounds delicious. I'm going to have pasta for dinner tonight as well. Denzel says, making spaghetti and meatballs while watching the stream. I went out to dinner last night and had spaghetti and meatballs, and they were disappointing. I was so looking forward to it. You know what? Actually, I saw the Pete Davidson picture on SNL when he was eating spaghetti and meatballs. And I was like, I'd love to have spaghetti and meatballs. And I went out to dinner and I ate it out, and the restaurant did a horrible job, and I feel really cheated. So I might have some pasta tonight to make up for it. Rashad says, on my way to the airport for work, gonna have to rewatch this stream later, but that's, Rashad, is that your other job? Because I know you also work at the spa, right? Oh, Timothy, I pronounced it correctly. That makes me very happy. Good night, Bear Goddard in London. Let's see here. CT says, I'm eating lasagna and thinking of Garfield. If only it were Monday, CT, you'd have everything. Hey, Matt, always great to see you. Google's troll O'Day says, elevating myself legally in LA. I don't know what that means, Google's, but good for you. Carter James, I missed your super chat. Oh, there it is. Happy Tuesday, Grace. I wanted to share that I had my first shift at Madison Square Garden today. Going to be working there in Radio City this season. Oh, great, Carter. I'm so happy for you. What a cool place to work. That means also that you'll get to be there like for the Christmas Spectacular. That's going to be really fun. I hope you have a great time. What a cool, iconic place to work. I did not go to the Olive Garden, Ty. I mean, I appreciate that. And, the Olive Garden certainly has its place. But I'm in New York City. I can't go to the Olive. We have one in Times Square. Bye, Danny. Lady Tourmaline says, at the grocery store, noticing the lack of sales in Ontario. Maybe just because it's Tuesday night. Oh, Google's the devil's lettuce. I get what you're talking about. Oh, CJ, you're going to walk Marvel. Oh, that's great. Then watch wrestling. Hey, neighbor. 80s model says, bye, Grace. Have a lovely evening. I'm going to finish my sushi dinner and watch Elemental. That sounds like a great night. Leroy says, trying to start a new chapter in my life, but oh boy, are those pages hard to turn sometimes. Oh, Leroy, you can do it. Don't force it. It'll come. The fact that you know you need to turn the page is, I think, half the battle. Oh, Carter James, my pleasure. I'm glad you told me I missed your super chat. Welcome to New York City. You seem to be fitting in quite well. And then Terry A is eating Chinese food that was just delivered. Oh, delicious, delicious. All right, I better get going. At the very least, I'll see you tomorrow for a live stream, and I hope that you guys have a great, great rest of your evening or day. Okay, bye, everybody. Bye-bye.